So, hey everyone, welcome to the last session of the React Learning session, the last day of the React Learning session. Today, we'll be basically deploying the whole application that we made. But before that, we'll be going through a few, finishing touches that you can give to your applications. Now, I won't be discussing any code today because, I won't be writing any code today. I'd only be discussing like what all you can do and what all you can improve upon. So let's just begin with what we had yesterday. So I'll just show you what all changes I've made so far, like as compared to what we did yesterday in yesterday's session. So the first thing that I started with was basically populating all the different data points that we can get. So suppose I search for something like Chennai and hit the add button. So you'll see that all of the data points are coming up properly. This is the current wind status, and if I switch to also the other change that I made was for the color of this button and also whatever shown inside it. Because in metric system, I noticed that the unit for even the wind status changes, so that's why I set it to meters per second over here, and also when it's in imperial, it gets converted to miles per hour. So we are doing that here as well. Okay, and once we like get all of that data, what we're doing is the next thing that we can improve upon is adding all of these level meters wherever possible. So I've done this for only one place over here. The next thing that I did was also, add the proper sunrise sunset times, getting all of the data from different, different properties inside the weather data. So I got the minimum temperature, maximum temperature. I also got the unit based on, I also set the unit to Celsius or Fahrenheit based on the unit. Same for the wind speed. I'm getting the wind speed and the direction in the unit as well. And in the sunrise sunset as well, I'm using moment again to format the sunrise data, because this was also in Unix timestamp, both of these actually. So I converted them to first of all converted them to milliseconds, and then formatted them into a format that I found comfortable for me. After that, I set the visibility. So the visibility was in meters, so I changed it to kilometers just to make it more, small, like get a more smaller value. And then if you go inside visibility, I'm also using a toPrecision function to this is a function present of the number class of the number type of JavaScript. So the toPrecision function is used to clamp the whole visibility to a certain value. Currently the visibility is 3 kilometer exactly, but if it was something like 3.555, it will clamp it to 3.56. That's what this is used for. Moving on, so these are only like the visual things, so I'll just put stage it to Git. The next thing that I did was remove all the console logs that were there. So now all of the console logs are gone. All right. Next thing that I did was add default values for all of the properties that are numeric and are coming from the API calls. So this is needed because when the first call is made, so obviously at that time the data would be undefined. So if we leave it at that, like all of these data would would show as nan or undefined in most of the places, and at some places it might also give an error because this function can't be called on undefined, right? That is why I'm giving it a default value at every place wherever possible. Okay, this is just one example, but you can do this at like all the other places wherever you're passing numerical values or wherever you're passing something that can have a default value. Okay, so moving on. So in the visibility as well, I'm setting the precision only. Then in the min-max temp, what I'm doing is again setting the precision here and over here in the min temp, and also sending the default values. Okay. In the humidity, I created that level meter that we were discussing early on in the session in our sessions. So this level meter is basically two divs, one nested inside the other, and the top div is the container, that is the empty meter, and then the inner div is basically how much level we want to show. So the way we are doing it is we are basically passing sending that percentage value as a prop to this styled component, and this styled component is then taking that prop and setting it as the height of the inner div, in terms of percentage. So the outer div has a fixed height of 5 rem, and the inner div has a has a percentage height which is relative to this 5 rem. So whenever we change this, change this humidity. So suppose I add Mumbai and hit add. So I'll get the data for Mumbai, and you must have noticed that the visibility is still coming as nan, and that is because obviously, like maybe in the visibility section I didn't set the like default value properly. So like you can do all of that, and then once you get all of that over here, so like after that, like that nan would go away. And similarly, like if you look at the like the level meter now, you'll see that it updates based on whatever like city I'm selecting. Okay, and like all of the data are basically now being updated. So in Chennai, like I don't think there's any wind blowing. I mean, at least that's what OpenWeather tells me. So that is why like this is basically 0 meters per second. But in Mumbai, you can see that there's some wind brewing up. So like you can see the data in both meters per second and miles per hour as well. And one okay, before that, let's just cover everything else. So the humidity had that level meter. All right, moving on to the header. In the header, I did a few optimizations for these two buttons over here. So like now they are smaller and they show much more data, and they are now also a better color, because black wasn't really a nice color to show which one is active. So I just chose blue, because that is like a very rarely used color in our application. And I also removed this console log over here. So basically, you should clear all the console logs before you're deploying, because you don't want your user to see all of this random data in the console if they try to inspect element, because some of this data might even be, might even be like what do you call it, confidential. So you don't want the user to see them. That's why I'm clearing all the logs. So then in the search bar, I did a few more optimizations. So I created a handle clear button, like clear button handler, and this handler basically used when the user clicks on this button. So suppose if I type something like let's type CHE, so I'll get these suggestions, right? So you'll see that as I start typing, this button turns black. Okay, when I've not typed anything, this button is not black, it's gray, and when I've started typing, it turns black. So if I click it, all of the suggestions and everything goes away. So after that, like what I've done is like for that, what I've done is I've created an empty prop, which is basically either true or false based on the search keyword. So when the search keyword is empty, then this is true, else it's false. And then I'm using that empty prop to somewhere around here to basically set the color and the cursor of the clear button. Okay. Then down here you'll see that the clear button is getting its color from the style, because fill is current color. This is something that you can do to get the fill from basically the CSS. Okay. After that, like I've also attached the on-click, I've also specified the on-click listener for this. So that's the handler for this on-click listener. And then so this is basically it for the search bar as well. Okay, so this is basically all the polishing, like visual polishing, that you can do. And one thing more that I would like to add here is that the API that we started with earlier, well, like the main API that we are using, if you go to app.js, we'll see that this API is the weather API, right? So this is basically the current weather API according to the documentation. If I pull the documentation over here and I open the new page, so this is basically the current weather API. And this API, although very useful to get the current weather, is not really enough to get the min-max temperature, because as you can see, the min-max temperature is exactly equal in both for min and max. It's exactly equal, and it is equal to the current temperature as well, because if I clamp it down to the precision level which I have done here, this will also become 86 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So the reasons behind that is because this min-max is not actually exactly the min-max of the whole day. This min-max is the min-max temperature of the range that you have given. Okay, so for example, if you are giving a range of hourly forecast for 4 days, then the min-max temperature would be for the 4 days that you are searching for. Similarly, daily forecast. So for daily forecast, you'll actually get the min-max temperature for the whole day, and so on and so forth. So in case of current weather data, this min-max temperature can only have the min-max temperature of the range that you have specified. So since current weather won't vary because current weather is a static weather, right? It won't be a series or an array of different data points. So that's why min-max temperature is exactly the same, and they're equal to this weather over here. So if you want to get the min-max temperature, you need to fetch the daily forecast of 16 days, or at least the daily forecast of today. Okay, and you can obviously do that with this API call, but then you might be missing a few things that are present in current weather data. So the best thing that you can do, and this is something that I found out, was this API that you can implement. This is the one call API. So it basically is one single API for everything, and it works on the basis of longitude and latitude. But that is totally possible because every time we add a new location, we can also save the longitude and latitude, right? And then we can call this API, and by saving I mean saving into the Redux store. Okay, so and then using this API, we can make that particular call by setting the longitude and latitude over here. And if you want to exclude anything, so for example, you might want to exclude alerts or hourly, minutely, so you can all do that. Like I don't think we need minutely and hourly and also the alerts. So but if you want to implement that into your application, you can do that as well, totally possible. But like I only care about current and the daily weather, because that's all that will contain all the data that I need. And then this is the shape of the API response, or the rough shape of the API response that you'll get. And in somewhere around here, you'll see that you have temp. So this is the daily temperature, daily data. So weather data collected for the whole day. So and this is the inside the temp property over here, you'll see that you have the min temperature and the max temperature. And here you can see that they are actually varying. So you also have the night temperature, evening temperature, and the morning temperature. So like you have all of the data that you might need. Okay, so you can replace this API with this API and try to implement it properly and set all the data properly, and that should start working. Okay, I won't be worrying with that right now, but you can totally do that in your application. Okay, last thing that we can do is, and this is something Kunal suggested, is that we can store the preferences, like the data, like the basically the location preferences locally in the browser. So like currently what happens is, like for example, right now we have Chennai and Mumbai, right? So if I hit refresh, what happens is they go away, like the whole application restarts from normal. So what we can do instead is, whenever we are updating the state with the with locations, so what state we are actually updating is a location state, right? Down in this store, in the location, we are updating this particular state, right? This whole thing. So basically, whenever we are using the location reducer, and whenever this location reducer is being called, we can store the state somewhere, right? And just by storing that state somewhere locally, we can when we are next time when we are starting this whole application, and when this initial state is coming along to the reducer, we can specify that the initial state should not be this, but should be the local data that we have stored. So how do we do this? So for storing anything locally permanently on a browser from a website, you can use something called local storage API. Okay, so the local storage is basically a storage, like a storage space that can save string type data. Okay, and I say string type data because that is what it exactly does. It cannot store objects and stuff, but I mean, if you want to store objects, what you do is you parse those objects into strings and then you store them. Okay, so this whole object is actually a string. So when you want to get this data, you can get this by by actually fetching it as a string and then parsing it back to JSON. Okay, so how do we use this local storage? So there are two parts to it. First part is, when we already, so let's assume that this local storage would be the local storage data that we are storing would be referred to as let's see, location, preferred locations. Okay, so the everything that is stored inside the local storage is stored in key value pairs. So you can find by key and then get the value, and you can also delete by key, set by key, and all of that. Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. We are first going to see if there is something in this like local storage in this local storage with the key name preferred locations. Okay, so the way we do it is local storage dot get item preferred locations. Okay, I think there's a typo over here. Preferred locations, and if it is there, then this would be something other than undefined, because if it's not there, this will return undefined. But if it is actually there, like, okay, so if it's not there, it returns null or undefined, but if it's not there, it will return a string always. So if it is returning a string, it will this whole expression will become true. So in that case, what we'll do is we'll do something. So we'll do again local storage dot get item, and I'll call it again preferred locations, but this time we'll parse it to JSON, actual JSON. So I'll do JSON dot parse this whole thing, else this is the initial state. So if you read it properly, this basically says that if that particular thing is in local storage, then that is the initial state in terms of JSON, else this is the initial state. Okay, so now it will get anything stored in local storage with the key preferred locations as the initial state of the location reducer. Okay, but how do we actually store this like how do we actually store the current state whenever the current state changes into local storage? Because that's what we need to do, right? Every time the current state changes, we need to store it in local storage and then get it the next and then get it the next time we refresh the whole page. Okay, so the getting part is done. Let's look at the setting part. Okay, so we only need to save into local storage when we add a new location, right? Or delete a new location, delete a existing location, right? So we can do that by first of all let's copy this state up here. So const new add location equals to, and I'll paste this whole thing. Okay, and I'll return this as well over here, but at the same time I'll also save it into local storage. So local storage dot set item preferred locations, comma, and it accepts a string value. So I'll write JSON dot stringify. This will basically convert the whole JSON to a string, and the JSON that I want to save is new add location. So this is the new state, right? Every time a new location is added, this is the new state value. So this will be this will update the local storage every time a new location is added. Okay. Similarly, we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, so here they are returning the a new state like this, right? So what we can do is first of all I'll call it const new delete location. Okay, and this will be the new state that is being returned from here, and we'll do the same thing over here as well. So I'll copy this and I'll paste it over here, and instead of new add location, we can do new delete location and hit save. Okay, so what this will do is so currently obviously there is a location added already, but if I add another location, for example let's add Pune and hit add. So obviously this won't work because we haven't refreshed. So I'll just hit refresh for once, and then I'll try to add Chennai. Okay, so I'll hit add, and you'll see the preferred location gets updated automatically. Okay, now if I add another thing, does it update again? And it does. So now if I expand it, I'll have two different locations with or without the data. That is totally fine, but we at least have this much. Okay, so now let's see if we refresh, do we actually get the location data for Pune automatically or not. So I'll hit refresh, And yes, the data for Pune is automatically fetched, and Pune and Chennai are automatically added to our, the preferred locations as well. So now everything is being persisted. This is what persistence means. So you're basically saving the you're basically saving the Redux state to your local storage. So your application is more or less saved onto the user's computer, and this local storage is basically having the context of a particular website. So as you can see, currently it's saving the data under localhost 3000, right? But if you host your whole thing if you host your whole thing to some service like Netlify or Vercel, then in that case this local storage will have that context of whatever website it's hosted on. So it's not like that you can get this preferred location from any website. It will only be relative to localhost for now. But when your users use this local storage will be for for the URL where you have shared the whole site. Okay. So this is basically the whole persisting thing. We can similarly persist the config as well, and if this is like getting too repetitive, you can also persist the whole root reducer, and there's a whole different like method to do that. I mean, like, you can obviously implement it on your own, but there's something called Redux Thunk that you can use. It's basically like called the Thunk middleware, and there's something called Redux Persist as well, I think, and it's a library that you can use to save whichever state you want to the local storage, and it automatically loads that state the next time your whole application restarts. So that is another approach for doing this, but I usually like to do this manually because it's not really helpful to store more than what is needed into local storage. It's not really a good practice to do that. So that is why I store my states manually into local storage for a small application like this. Okay, so these are basically all the changes that were possible, like that I can see for now. I mean, obviously you can modify this to your heart's intent and heart's content, and you can do much more like creative stuff than me. And obviously this API also allows you to do much more creative stuff. So yeah, go ahead and like just try everything out. And if you guys find any kind of issues, if you're stuck anywhere, feel free to reach me out. Feel free to message me or put a message in the group, and there are people who would be happy to help. So I think that's it for like the whole polishing part. Let's check out deployment. So for deploying, we are going to use a service called Vercel. There's also Netlify that you can use, but I prefer Vercel because it's faster, and it has a much more cleaner UI, and it gives you things like analytics and everything right out of the box. I mean, Netlify also does that, but like Vercel does it in a better way, and the final URL that you get is also smaller than what you get for Netlify. So if it's not a custom URL, that's also another plus point for me. So I'll just use Vercel for now. And the process is more or less similar on both of these platforms, and there's many more platforms out there where you can deploy your React applications. You can, first things first, you can manually build your application as well. So what you can do is, in the package.json you can see this build command, right? So what you can do is you can just run yarn build and manually start a new build for your React application. So this will basically create a folder called build, inside which you'll have all of the files that are relevant to your application. So what this does is React script basically compiles all of your JavaScript into 2 or 3 like bulk JavaScript files. Okay, so if I expand the static folder now that the build has completed, you'll see that there are different chunks of JavaScript over here. So there's the main chunk, and then there are different chunks of JavaScript, and all of this is basically like your whole React application. So you'll see that this is not really in a readable format, and that is intended because that is by choice, and this is because every space character as well that you put into your application costs some bytes of size, right? So you must know that one character is 1 byte in length, right? So every space, every enter character, every new line, everything costs some bytes, right? Even a semicolon. So React scripts basically uses Webpack behind the scenes, I think, and it basically shrinks your whole JavaScript, like all of your JavaScript files into like concise pieces of code, and like also compiles all of your library imports and everything into like a single long file, and then breaks it down into chunks, and these chunks are loaded based on requirements. And this is the index.html file. So you must have seen the same index.html file down in the public folder, right? A similar index.html file. So it has done the same thing for this file, this build file as well. It has basically removed all the new lines and all, and it has also imported all of the static JS down into the index.html. So if you scroll through this and try to read it, you'll see that it also has a lot of JavaScript over here. So you don't really need to understand all of these files. A few of them that really matter is like the manifest.json. This is basically used to do things like do things that are related to progressive web apps. So you can add configurations over here that will make your browsers or the user's browsers think that this is basically a native application. This is close to a native application, and you'll be able to install your whole weather lens app. Like in my case, I'm calling it weather lens. So you'll be able to install your whole app as a native app onto your mobile phone or your PC, for example. Okay. Then there's this text file which is basically for SEO. It's called robots.txt, and it's basically saying that it allows all user agent to crawl through your website, and you can leave it this way if you want. A few things that you can do before deploying is you can go to index.html and change the description and similarly the title for your project. So the title must be somewhere around here. So instead of calling it React app, you can call it weather lens. Okay, and similarly you can change the description over here. So I'll call it all your weatherly worries at one place. Okay. So you can do better than me, obviously. So like you can change all of these configurations over here. You can also change the logos, for example. You can change the favicon over here, and you can change these logos as well. So these are the logos that appear when your application link is shared on things like WhatsApp and on Discord, or for example. So you should actually change all of these logos. Find a good logo on the internet and go to this website called favicon.io, and there just upload any so you'll see here you can do, if it loads properly. So yeah, so what you can do over here is you can convert your PNG to an icon. So just drop your PNG, whatever logo you find on the internet, drop it over here, and it will convert them into files that can be pasted down here. Okay, so replace these three files with the ones that you get from that download, and you'll be good to go. So all of these icons will be populated automatically, and then you can run a build. And once you run the build, you can deploy it to GitHub pages as well. Like the build that is generated here, this build is basically a static website, because we were running a local server, right? That so that whenever we are making any changes and saving, those changes appear on the browser on localhost. That's why we were using Node.js. But React is a front-end library. It's not a framework. It's a front-end library. Okay. So once everything is completed and you've built your application, all you are left with is an index.html and a few JavaScript files. So you can easily deploy it to GitHub pages as well. But there you would suffer a lot when you want to set up CI/CD. So CI/CD in short is basically whenever you are pushing a new commit, you are pushing a new change to your repository, it will automatically rebuild the whole application and redeploy the whole thing, the new thing onto onto a particular website. So for that purpose only, we are using Vercel and Netlify. So for using Netlify, for using Vercel, what we can do is we can hit new project, and then over there, if you have logged in through your GitHub account, then you'll be able to see all of your projects over here. So just select the particular organization from where you want to import and select the project that you want to import, and it will automatically identify, like Vercel is smart enough to identify that this is a CRA application. Excuse me. So it's smart enough to identify that this is a CRA application. And then if you want to, you can also specify things like environment variables and build settings over here. So we won't be, changing the build settings and all, because everything seems like all right. And Vercel automatically is smart enough to uh, configure itself based on the framework that you're using, and it supports a lot of different frameworks, as you can see. Okay, so one thing but that we need to do is that we had an env, right? So this env must be like also specified in the build itself, so in the environment where you're deploying as well, because then only it will be able to identify these these environment variables in the code when it's building. Okay, so the way we do that is we just paste the environment variable name over here, and then the actual value over here, and hit add. So that variable is now added. You can view it if you want, you can remove it if you want. So with this, the whole configuration part is done. Now I just need to hit deploy, and once the whole thing processes, it will start a deployment. So you can see the sequential status over here. So it's currently in the build stage. Once it's built, you can also see the logging that you're getting, that you get over here as well. So you can see that here. And once it's built, so it gave us a few warnings related to some library, like libraries that can be upgraded to their better versions. But that's totally fine. So once the whole build command has run, so yeah, so this is what I wanted to show you. So in many of these applications, there's a CI in place that will give you very strict that are very strict in terms of even warnings as well. So we as developers usually like skip these warnings, right? But like these CIs, that is called continuous integration, these are basically checkers in place that checks your code for warnings and errors, and it will definitely fail. So for warnings that are related to npm itself, we can't really do much, right? I mean, you can go ahead in the log file and you can change that, change those versions as well. But I am like confident enough that I want to skip these warnings. So what I can do is I can set this, environment variable in in Vercel, and it will automatically skip that warning. So I'll just hit change over here, and I'll add another environment variable called CI and set it to true. Or sorry, like we don't want to set it to true. It is already true, so we can set it to false in order to skip the CI check. Okay, so I'll write false and hit add and click deploy again. Okay, so it will deploy again. That will take a while. This is also this is also true for Netlify as well. So you need to set CI to false over there as well. So it's again doing like npm I, or it's basically fetching all the packages, and then it will run the build command. So meanwhile, by the time it does that, let's just go back and see what all options do we get. Okay, so I'll just go back to my home page, and I'll click on IEEE RLS Weather Lens, and I can like you can already see that you'll get to see the whole deployment scenario over here. So if there are multiple people working on your React repository, then if they create any extra branches and they basically open up PR, then you'll also have a preview for each of those PRs, and then we can go into analytics to see how many users you're getting daily on your application. So since it's not deployed right now, it is not available, but you can enable analytics in your settings, and then you'll get analytics as well. In the settings, you can do a bunch of more things. The first thing that we can do is go to domains and set a custom domain for our application. So since the first deployment is still not done, it's not actually showing up, but once that's done, we'll be able to see the domains as well. So let's just see where we are on the build stage. So yeah, compiled with warnings, but it is compiled, and the checks are also done, and the domains are also assigned. So this is the final domain that we got. Okay, these are the automatic domains, and these are not really relevant to us. This is the final domain that we got, and if we click on it, you'll be able to see your application live on the internet. So this is the domain name that I have got, but if I want to change it, I can do that, and I do want to change it. So I'll just it basically picks the name from your repository name, but I don't like that. So I will actually change it. So I'll go to Weather Lens, down into the settings, into domains, and here you can edit the domain. So hit edit and write Weather Lens, okay, and hit save. So this will basically like deploy a new link, and this link will die now, so this won't work. But if you click on this link, it will open up your application. Okay, and you'll find by testing that everything works properly. But like if you can see, I didn't push this commit, right? So I don't have all of the new changes over here. So now I'll show you the power of CD that services like Vercel and Netlify provides you. But before that, I'll show you how it actually works. So it's basically connected to my Git repository. Okay, so unless until I hit disconnect, it will automatically run CD every time, and every time I push a new change, it will auto deploy the whole change. Okay, so let's go to the repository and see how that looks on the repo side. Okay, so I'll go to my profile and Weather Lens. Okay, so there are 7 commits right now. The last commit was 2 hours ago. So I'll just commit this thing. We'll call it finishing touches. I'll stage the index file as well, and I'll hit Control Enter. I'll push this change. And once that happens, if I refresh this, you'll see the new changes over here. And you'll also see this yellow badge over here. Okay, so if you click it, you'll see that Vercel is doing something, and this is basically the whole thing that's happening. So this is closely integrated to GitHub Actions. So Vercel is currently running an action on GitHub, which is deploying the whole thing on Vercel. So you'll be able to see the latest deployment and build log over here. So it's again doing yarn run build, and it's building, and once that is built. So if you go into deployments and hit refresh first of all, so once the build completes over here, and once this refreshes, I'm sorry for my slow internet right now. Okay, so it seems that this already completed over here. That's why we got another ready right now. So this was deployed 29 seconds ago, and this is the current version. So now if you refresh this page, you'll be able to see the new one. So yeah, now you'll be able to see the new version over here. So this is how simple it is to see your changes come up online once you have set up Vercel. So once you have set up CI/CD to be precise. So and you can always go back to your previous deployment if you find that there is some error in your latest deployment. So that is another plus point that you get from deploying on these services. And if you remember, when we were in settings domains, there was also an option to add custom domains. So we can do that as well. So if I add weatherlens.snahill.dev, And I obviously own snail.dev, so you also need to own a custom domain like this. So then you can do something like this, and then you hit add. So Vercel will automatically give you like suggestions on how to configure your DNS, like DNS on your basically on your domain manager, and how to get to get this link to work. So like currently this won't work obviously because my DNS doesn't know how where snail.weather. I mean where weatherlens.snail.dev should go. So I'll just open Google Domains because that's where I got the whole thing from. Okay, I think it's that, or no. Okay, Google Domains. So you can go to your domains over here, and all I need to do is add this CNAME record. So CNAME record is a type of record that would give you access to this this subdomain over on your main domain, and then you route it to this particular CNAME value. Okay. So like once it loads, I'll just show you. This is very simple and very similar to other like domain providers like GoDaddy or Namecheap or anything else for that matter. I'll just go down to my DNS section. And in my DNS section, I can create a new record. So I'll do manage custom record, and you'll see that I already have a few records over here that were all like created. Some of these are hosted on Vercel. One of these are hosted on a on a server. So all of that is present here. So I can do manage custom records over here, and I can create a new CNAME record. Okay, actually this is an A record. So in order to create a new record, I need to hit this and I'll write CNAME. I'll paste the thing that was written over here. The name should be weatherlens. So I'll paste weatherlens over here. And then for the domain name, it should be cname.verceldns.com. So I'll paste it over here. And once I hit save, and once this whole setting propagates, it might take a while for this to propagate. It doesn't happen instantly, but once it happens, like once it propagates, you'll be able to see you'll be able to open this custom domain as well. So let's see if it has propagated or not. So if I open this, it's not working currently, but if I hit refresh, so I think it's not working because of this HTTPS maybe. So let's see if it works on HTTP. And it's not. And the reason behind that is basically that it hasn't propagated properly. But once it happens, like you'll be able to see in Google Domains, it happens almost instantly. So let's see if it works like in a while or not. But trust me, like this is the whole configuration that you need to deploy it. So if I refresh it now, you'll see that this okay, yeah, so this was the step that was missing, so I had to refresh it, and now it's generating an SSL certificate for me. So an SSL certificate is what enables HTTPS over any kind of website basically, or over any kind of domain. Okay, so that's why it wasn't working earlier. So now if I hit refresh, you'll be able to see that weatherlens has come up on weatherlens.snail.dev. So this is how you can host it on your custom domain as well. So that's it for deploying and finishing, and like we have come to the end of the whole session. And like first of all, I would like to thank you, thank the ones who attended the session and interacted on the session live. And like I would I really appreciate your presence. I really appreciated your presence throughout the 6 days. And I know for some circumstances like you guys were not able to attend, but do watch the recordings. Like you'll be able to learn a lot from the session. There's content on Redux, and like there's content on how to style your components and how to split your components into different smaller components and deal with them one by one. So like you'll be able to learn a lot from this, and I think this will be really helpful in on getting used to React, and also will pave a path forward to frameworks like React Native or Next.js, for example. So yeah, thank you so much. Bye bye.